What is going on YouTube? This is Jim back with another quick video today talking about Star Wars Battlefront 2, my frustration with the whole problem, and kind of where that leaves me feeling as a gamer. Now, I want you guys to understand one thing. This was the first year that I ever got to go to E3, and I went this year with my wife. The very first thing we went to was EA Play. The very first behind closed door session we got to experience was Star Wars Battlefront 2, and the very first game we ever played in 4K on a PlayStation 4 Pro was Star Wars Battlefront 2. And we both loved it. It was really a lot of fun, running around with our blasters, really high lighting effects and immersive sound. Everything that Star Wars Battlefront 1 was, plus more, made its way into 2. Very excited, went home, pre-ordered it. It was great. We were very anxiously waiting it. Then this loot crate problem started to rear its ugly head, and we started to get into this pay-to-win problem. Now, this is just one of many examples where you have these items in the game called star cards, which you can upgrade to make your character stronger. And each star card, if you get duplicates of the star card, you can kind of build up their effects. This is an example of pay to win, where Boba Fett had an ability that was a 50% damage reduction on the low end of the scale, up to a 100% damage reduction on the high scale. Now, that is to me a pay to win system, especially if the fastest, most efficient way to unlock this is via a microtransaction. I'm not going to argue with you guys whether or not a cosmetic item is a microtransaction is a good or bad thing, but I'm telling you guys that this is a system. As a gamer, this is broken. When you have a cosmetic item that doesn't affect gameplay, that is different than a real item that is going to make your character stronger than everyone else's character because you paid for it. This is pay to win, and this is broken. Keep in mind, though, that this is not the first time this has happened. Forza 5, when it launched, had a car that could only be purchased via microtransaction, and it turned out it was the best car in the game. Now, in Xbox One's defense, they did go back and change the system and allow it easier for players to earn in-game credits to eventually unlock this car. But if you're one of the early adopters who bought this car, you were better than everyone else because this car had better statistics in it than all the other cars in the game. And the only way to get it was a microtransaction. Now, this again is not exclusive to Forza 5. This just recently happened weeks ago with Shadow of War, another game that came out that had a microtransaction system. In this case, you bought orcs with real money, and the orcs would help defend your castle and your keeps in these online components. Turns out you needed a lot of these online components to unlock the better ending in the game. The fastest, most efficient way to do it was via a loot box system, and a microtransaction system was put in place. That's frustrating. That's pay to win. Unfortunately, my beloved Battlefront that I just said I got to see at EA Play and play in 4K, all that great stuff, started receiving a lot of flack because people received their early copies. And there were a lot of comments coming out about how bad the grind really was. And people started to realize that Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, two iconic characters in the Star Wars universe, are behind paywalls that can only be unlocked via 40 plus hours of gameplay or a microtransaction. You know, a little bit of loot box love there to get some credits faster. And that set the internet ablaze because EA responded and said, hey, listen, basically pound sand, we're going to look into it. This post was locked, but before it was locked, 565,000, 1/2 people, click that little arrow right there to downvote this link to say, listen, this crap sucks, we're very frustrated with you, and we're not going to take it. Now, that led to a lot of public campaigns that started popping up saying, listen, can you please boycott Star Wars Battlefront 2? This particular post had almost 150,000 upvotes. There's about 50 like this on the gaming subreddit. I just picked one of the more popular ones. of people revolting and saying, this is no good. We're not supporting this game. It's too grindy. The microtransaction system is out of place. Now, at this point, I was out. I'm like, you know what? This is too much drama for me. I've got plenty of other games to play on my Xbox One X. I'm going to go enjoy those games. And then, while I was eating lunch or dinner tonight with my wife, Twitter, we get a message, our phones go off, and we read this statement that basically says, listen, guys, we are going to tune the game. We've heard a lot of what you said. The social media campaign has really caught our attention in a very bad way, and there's a lot of negative press surrounding us. We want to make this right. So here's what we're going to do for you guys. We're going to reduce the amount of currency required to get heroes by 75%. We're going to make these heroes an achievement, but not one that's going to basically break the bank. And when I heard that, I said, hey, listen, it worked. This is great. There was some problems here. The population said, listen, we're not happy. And EA responded. And I'm like, okay, I'm back in. I'm going to keep my pre-order, and I'm happy to go. Everything's great. And then as I'm putting together the video to kind of explain why to you guys that I think EA deserves another chance, I stumble across this article from Game Informer. And among other things, the reviewer says that, hey, listen, they did slash their prices by 75%. However, during my review, completing the campaign earned you a unique loot crate that got you 20,000 credits. But now it's 5,000 credits. In other words, EA said they're going to reduce the amount of currency in order to unlock heroes, and then they're going to back end this other system which gives you less of a reward. This is shady. This is ultimately what's making me say, okay, EA, enough is enough. I'm not interested in your nonsense anymore. And for that reason, I'm not going to buy this game. I'm going to speak with my wallet. I've already canceled my pre-order, and I'm very frustrated by this shady, backhanded business that you can't just be upfront and honest with people and say we're kind of balancing things across the board. You write this blog post of this goodwill, and you tell us how, hey, listen, we're going to reduce the cost of heroes so that, everybody can earn them. But then they're going to turn around and they're going to reduce the amount of credits you get for completing the campaign. And I am sure that this is not the only instance. I'm sure that rewards have been lowered too. And all this is coming back together that EA just can't help themselves. They have to find a way to propel the loot box system back up in the forefront and say, listen, it's going to take you a lot longer, but hey, why don't you buy some loot boxes? And like I said, for that reason, EA, I'm out. I'm very frustrated with what you guys have done as a company. I'm sure you're going to make $100 zillion billion on this game, but 60 of them will not come from me. If you guys are buying this game, leave a comment below. Let me know, what really turns you on or off to this. I'm curious to hear your guys' feedback, but as for me, no bueno. As always, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Get out there and join me on the anger stage of the video game cycle. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.